You're listening to GoodMicWork Commentaries, hosted by Greg Morgan, a pro wrestling podcast for adults, discussing the fun, wild, and sometimes insane world of professional wrestling.
What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork Commentaries back at you with episode 507. I am up here to give you a pretty quick commentary this week. And before you say, GoodMicWork, shut up, you're full of shit, we all know that every time you say you're going to do a short episode, you talk for over an hour anyway. That will not be the case in this episode. My schedule of videos this week is going to be a lot different, and I'm going to let you guys know what to expect from me in the next few days. But really, all I'm up here to talk about now is this past week of WWE TV. Raw and SmackDown. We'll probably delve into some other wrestling news that's going around as well, and we'll preview Extreme Rules, and then I'm going to get out of here because I am prepping myself currently for a vacation. I'm about to leave town for about a week, and I've been mentioning this in the past couple of episodes to get you guys prepared for me being absent and to let you guys know what I have planned while I'm gone. So the schedule on the YouTube channel will be as follows. Today, July 5th, you of course are getting this episode 507, and then this weekend, most likely on Sunday, but it could be Saturday, you'll have a brand new DVD review released, which I haven't done one of those in a while. And then on Sunday night, I'm jumping on the red eye and heading to the East Coast for 8 days. I am going to schedule on Monday morning an early Extreme Rules predictions video. I'm probably going to record that this weekend, and I will schedule that to be released on Monday while I'm gone prior to Monday Night Raw. And then I'm gone through Extreme Rules. I don't get back until the Monday after Extreme Rules. So while I'm gone, in addition to this episode, the DVD review this weekend, and the Extreme Rules predictions video on Monday, I'm going to sprinkle hopefully about 2 mic drop episodes per day while I'm gone. And then unfortunately, I will not be here for Extreme Rules. There will be no video. There will be no post Extreme Rules stream. Nothing like that, which kind of sucks. I don't get back into town until Monday morning after Extreme Rules. So provided my flight is not delayed, I'm at the very least going to be watching Raw on the 16th and live tweeting. I will probably be way too tired to do a live Raw watch along, but I'll watch the show, I'll live tweet, and if I have enough energy, which I'm hoping I will, and I'm sure I will come up and do a post Monday Night Raw stream where I will discuss Extreme Rules and everything that happened there, and then of course, Monday Night Raw and what's going on heading into Summerslam now. So y'all's homework assignment is when we get to Extreme Rules, if you guys can tweet me and update me on social media, especially on Twitter, so please follow me at GoodMicWork. Let me know on Twitter how the show is going. If I can, I don't know what I'm going to be doing that day, but if I can check it out or pull it up on my phone or catch it on TV or pull it up on a computer or something, I will. But most likely I will have no clue what's going on during the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, so you guys will be my eyes and my ears. So once again, please give my Twitter profile a follow, because even though I'll be on vacation, I'll be tweeting probably constantly. But wrestling news and things like that, I'm probably going to be oblivious to, so if anything crazy happens or news breaks, send it over to me on Twitter and I'll definitely see it, because my phone will be on me at all times. That's the schedule. Write it down, put it in your phone, click that notifications bell, all that good stuff if you want to keep track of what I am doing. So what we're going to get into here today is, like I said, not much. This past week of TV in WWE was not great. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it definitely wasn't really good. And that's primarily because Raw continues to suck. I was not home, like I said, to watch Raw, but I had asked you guys to send me some updates on social media, and every single one of you told me the same thing. This was a skippable show. It was a very Roman Reigns heavy show. We had nearly an hour of Roman Reigns on this 3-hour Raw, and there was a lot of other just crazy, hokey, dumb shit going on the show, and overall just wasn't a very interesting or fun show to watch, so I guess technically I didn't miss anything by not being here. SmackDown was a little bit better, but still, when I watched it, I didn't consider it to be a great show or anything like that, but anything is better than Raw. So the last thing in the world I want to do is spend 30 minutes talking about Raw, so let's make this really quick. Roman Reigns was basically pulling double duty on Monday Night Raw this week. He opened up the show with a promo. He's bitching about his loss to the Revival last week with Bobby Lashley, and he kind of says a few dumb things in the promo, but they let him talk for a little while until Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler interrupted, which prompts Seth Rollins to come out and make the save, and that sets up Seth and Roman taking on Drew and Dolph in a tag team match. Seth and Roman would wind wind up winning that match via DQ when the Revival would show up and pull Roman Reigns off the apron right before he's about to get the hot tag. They beat the shit out of Roman Reigns and lay him out, and later on, Roman Reigns was going to have to team with Lashley in a rematch versus the Revival because the Revival got the victory over them last week. So you fast forward to that match later on in the show, Roman is already banged up. He's in there with Lashley. The two of them have already interacted a little bit backstage where Roman Reigns told him outright, hey, you stand on the apron, I'm going to beat the Revival by myself. Roman Reigns, some people say he buried the Revival a little bit because he said, I can't believe I lost to them or something like that, or I can't believe we lost to them. I didn't think that was too bad. I can understand how fans, especially people who don't like Roman Reigns, would have a huge problem with that, but really, it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm going to be much more upset if next week on Monday Night Raw, when I'm not home, Roman Reigns is in a handicap match against the Revival, and I'm willing to bet anything that this Monday they will actually do that. Now, if Roman Reigns then has a handicap match with the Revival and he beats him, then okay, yeah, I don't really like that. But him just saying that in a promo, who cares? And the Revival, they got the revenge on him. Not only did they defeat Roman last week, but they left him laying twice on this show on Monday Night Raw. And Roman and Lashley would wind up winning that match via DQ when Roman Reigns would refuse to tag Lashley in. He stayed in the ring the whole time, fought the entire match by himself until Lashley got pissed and walked away. And that's when the Revival ended up getting DQ'd because of a double team, and the two of them just beat the shit out of Roman Reigns. So they beat him last week. They kicked his ass in the earlier tag match when he was with Seth Rollins. And here they are beating the crap out of him in his tag match with Bobby Lashley. So it's a good rub, I suppose, for the Revival, because since they got called up from NXT, they have been a huge disappointment. They've both been injured a couple times. They've had some horrible luck. And then when they finally do make it to TV, they're not nearly as over as they were in NXT. They don't feel as special. They're in meaningless matches. They're losing a lot. And so at least this gives them some stuff to do. I mean, here it is 2-3 weeks in a row now. They're working with top guys. So that at least is something for them. But like I said a minute ago, I wouldn't be surprised at all if next week on Raw, we get Roman Reigns versus the both of them in a handicap match. And if that winds up happening, I think the best thing we can hope for as fans is that Lashley kind of interferes and screws Roman and costs him the match. Maybe the Revival is able to beat him because of a distraction from Lashley. That's kind of the finish I would go with there, instead of having Roman just beat the crap out of both of these guys, and it does absolutely nothing for the Revival. But if you have Roman lose with some assistance from Lashley, then that just builds heat for their match at Extreme Rules and everybody wins, right? So keep a lookout for that on Monday Night Raw this week. Wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the match we get. So Roman Reigns and Lashley now, one would have to assume that even though they're doing this storyline with Brock Lesnar that he's not going to be at SummerSlam, this could still act as a number one contender match between these two. And by the way, speaking of Brock Lesnar, I know that there's been some internet reports lately that he's reportedly not going to work SummerSlam. I'm sorry. He will be at SummerSlam. If anybody thinks he's not going to defend the title at SummerSlam, you are crazy. This is probably part of a storyline. I mentioned in my live episode last week that it seemed like WWE may have changed their mind, because if you remember, they initially announced a multi-man match for Extreme Rules. The winner would become the number one contender and challenge Brock at SummerSlam. The very next week, they pulled back on that and changed their minds and said that Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar are now refusing to defend the title, or they're not going to live up to their contract, or whatever the excuse was. They basically weren't willing to play ball. So that forced Kurt Angle to postpone the match or cancel the match, and now we're getting Roman and Lashley instead. So I'm wondering if WWE maybe decided, hey, let's not name the number one contender at Extreme Rules. Let's drag this out a little bit more, but we've already announced we're going to have a number one contenders match at Extreme Rules, so we need to do something to kind of get out of that deal. So they had Paul Heyman do the social media thing, and now they can change the match or whatever. I'm really not sure what the story is there. But rest assured, there is absolutely no way at the second biggest pay-per-view of the year in New York that Brock Lesnar is not going to work that show. He will be there, he will defend the title, and hopefully he will lose it. And there's been a lot of talk about Brock Lesnar as well. He had, I think, until last Friday was the deadline to enter the USADA drug pool or whatever so he can get reinstated into the UFC and potentially fight again in 2018. Now he has missed that deadline, so there's no way he can even return to the UFC this year. It's going to have to be way down the line now, which has got a lot of people speculating that Brock Lesnar might, after all of this shit, stick with WWE after all for the long term. I hope that he does. I know a lot of people are sick of Brock Lesnar, but hey, we know we're getting near the end of his title run now. A lot of the reason for the Brock Lesnar hate is because he's not only never there, but he's also champion. It didn't bother us so much when Brock just showed up here and there and had pay-per-view matches. No big deal, right? But when he's got a championship, a world title that he's essentially holding hostage at his house and never on Raw, WWE is doing a good job of making the fans hate him. And I think a lot of this Paul Heyman shit and a lot of all these reports of Brock Lesnar, quote unquote, not working SummerSlam is done by design to get as many fans to hate him as possible, which could be a really good sign that they are going to go with the Roman Reigns match because, you know, they're like, shit, we're going to put Roman in the ring with Brock again. We know the reaction Roman's going to get, but maybe if fans are so fed up and so sick and tired of Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns will actually get cheered. Instead of just giving up on that and putting Brock in there with a new opponent like a Bobby Lashley or maybe somebody like Seth Rollins. And when you think about Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns being hooked up here, I mentioned this in my last episode. It was weird how Roman, he's got this whole deal with Lashley going, right? And he's got this big match with him at Extreme Rules. You can tell they're building a big program between the two, but yet he's still got this little side deal with Seth Rollins. And that kind of makes me wonder if they're keeping Roman and Seth a little bit close here in order to work Seth into the world title situation come SummerSlam. Assuming he falls short in his Intercontinental title match at Extreme Rules, since he's got some association with Roman Reigns. Maybe Seth could even get involved somehow in the Lashley situation as well. And that can at least keep Seth Rollins in the conversation since he's hanging around with a lot of world title contenders. And if he does wind up getting a title shot or challenging Brock, it doesn't feel like it came way out of left field. Feels like Seth belongs there. So maybe that's why Seth and Roman are teaming a little bit more often now on Monday Night Raw and kind of rekindling their Shield brotherhood. Even though Roman is busy with Lashley and Seth is busy with Dolph Ziggler. So the whole thing is kind of interesting there, and I'm really not sure one-on-one with Roman and Lashley who I'm going to pick to win this match, but I better figure it out because I'm going to be giving you guys an early predictions video here in just a couple of days. So those were the most notable things to take place on Raw, aside from the Kevin Owens and Strowman shit, which we'll get into in a minute. And in between all of that, we had Kurt Axel taking on Matt Hardy again. I think they worked last week. I'm surprised they didn't have Bo Dallas taking on Matt Hardy in that match. However, that match might have been altered a little bit because Bray Wyatt was reportedly injured in a car accident. So he got really lucky. His injuries were somewhat serious to where he actually had to miss some time. So he was not on Monday Night Raw. And I'm really happy Bray Wyatt is okay. That's scary stuff. So he'll probably be back next week. And then, of course, him and Matt have got to take on the B team for the titles at Extreme Rules. So most likely they probably plan to have Kurt Axel versus Bray Wyatt or maybe even Bo and Bray one-on-one on Raw. And then after the car accident, they switched things up and just went with the rematch between Axel and Hardy. We also had Sasha and Bayley in their counseling session. Now, if you remember last week, they finally imploded and Kurt Angle had told Bayley that he was going to send her to counseling or sensitivity training or therapy or some shit, which was just ridiculous when we've seen Braun Strowman do all this crazy shit. Where's his counseling? But yet Bayley, just because she has emotions like a regular human being, she's got to go to counseling, and we all speculated that we might see our good old friend Dr. Shelby come back to WWE TV, especially since we have Team Hell No reunited over on SmackDown. So one thing they did on Raw that I found surprising was they had Sasha and Bayley attend counseling together. I thought this was just Bayley. So the whole thing was really dumb and kind of weird and cringy, but it did have its moments. It was kind of funny seeing them in the waiting room together with the music playing, and then they have the counseling session, and Dr. Shelby is calling it, well, he had some weird nickname for it, the friend zone, I think, and it was just all really dumb, and they both had to impersonate the other, and what I found just weird about it is, like, who the hell is the face and who's the heel in this? You know, like, whose side am I supposed to be on here? It's just so bizarre. And again, another big problem I have with it is the same type of shit we've seen between these girls. They're at each other's throats trying to kill each other, and then the next week on Raw, they're sitting right next to each other in the locker room, you know, talking. Because what was it? Over a month ago, we saw Sasha and Bayley brawling backstage. I know there was a table involved and they were beating the shit out of each other backstage. I thought that was it. Very next week on Raw, they're sitting down playing Monopoly together or some shit. You know, it's just ridiculous. So here these girls are. They finally implode. Bayley viciously attacked Sasha last week to the point where you would think Sasha in storyline would want revenge, that she would bring a lead pipe with her to counseling and beat the piss out of Bayley with it right in front of Dr. Shelby. But instead, they play along, they sit on the couch. It's fucking stupid. It's unrealistic. I don't think it's supposed to be realistic, but I think these two girls deserve something better than something silly and stupid like this. I just saw the interview recently with Daniel Bryan, where he criticized the WWE creative team a little bit. And I draw a lot of parallels to this because Daniel Bryan was asked about a potential long-term program with The Miz. And he had said, I forget, I would give credit to whoever did the interview. I'm so sorry for not knowing. I want to say it was Gorilla Position Podcast, I think. And they had asked him about that long-term program, and he said, point blank, he's like, hey, do you trust WWE's creative team to put something together that special and that meaningful with me and The Miz all the way until WrestleMania, given our history? Do you trust these monkeys to be able to write some good shit for two guys that have so much history and so much story that dates back so many years? And he's right. I don't trust them to do that. No more than I trust them to handle Sasha and Bayley. Because think about it. Their feud and their history doesn't date back 6 months. It goes back years to the NXT days, and they've been together and had a long-lasting friendship and rivalry, and they've been with each other through all of this, through this whole long journey. You know, from NXT to the main roster, both women, multi-time champions, you know, classic matches, women's revolution, the whole deal, you know, and here they are sitting in a goddamn, you know, therapy session with Dr. Shelby. Like, what the fuck is going on? There's so much meat on the bone here between the two. There's so much you could do and do with a storyline between these two that could be fun. But instead, they're almost taking the lazy, tongue-in-cheek way out, and they're not playing up any of the real history between these two, and it just doesn't feel, you don't feel any emotion, you don't feel any connection to it. No fan really feels like one girl is in the right and one girl is in the wrong. Nobody can get invested emotionally in this storyline at all, and that's a shame because we should be able to, given the history of these women. So it's shit like this that's just so ridiculous, you know, in creative in WWE, that this is kind of like the best they can do. So, you know, like I said, it had its funny moments and stuff, but overall, this Dr. Shelby and Sasha and Bayley therapy shit is fucking stupid. We also had the Authors of Pain beating Titus Worldwide in what was essentially a squash match. Authors of Pain, I guess, are going to be built up here for a while. And eventually, you know, given a strong run with the titles, I don't know if they'll wind up beating Wyatt and Hardy, if they'll wind up beating a future champion, I'm not sure. But, you know, I kind of like that both brands have that big, badass, dominant team. You got the Bludgeon Brothers on SmackDown, and now you have the Authors of Pain on Monday Night Raw. And that would not be a horrible dream match right there. You put those two teams together and maybe unify the belts one day, that would be all right. We also had Ember Moon defeating Liv Morgan, and my sister sold that Eclipse quite well. So it was a good little sell by Liv on the finish, and Ember Moon got the win there. Nothing really to say about that. Ruby Riott apparently was injured as well, and there was some concern that this was going to be a significant injury. The reports now are that it's not too bad. She's just going to be out for a couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks or something like that, when initially it was feared she might have had some, you know, MCL or ACL tears, which will put her out of action for 6 months to a year. So luckily, it looks like Ruby Riott is going to be okay. At least that's what I've heard. If you guys have heard differently, please let me know. But best of luck to her, too, because I like the Riott Squad, and I like the way they're going around backstage acting like assholes to everybody. They did something to Elias on Raw as well, right? They, like, knocked over his guitar or some shit. So they're being little fucking twats, and I like it. And speaking of the women's title picture, we also had Nia Jax coming out for a promo, hyping her match with Alexa Bliss. Ronda Rousey has been announced to be sitting at ringside for the event, so even though she's suspended for 30 days, they're doing something to where I think she's going to have to buy a ticket. Hopefully she'll be sitting right next to that long-haired dude. Ronda Rousey is not going to be at Extreme Rules just to sit there and do nothing. She will be involved in the finish, and whatever they do, I'm almost certain that I'm going to predict Alexa Bliss to retain the title because, you know, if she lost it here, I'm like, okay, she won the briefcase and then the title in the same night, and now she's not even champion anymore less than 4 weeks later. I think if they're going to put the belt on her, she holds it until SummerSlam, and maybe you set up a Ronda, Alexa, Nia, Jax three-way at SummerSlam. I'm not really sure what they do there yet or what direction they're going in, but I think Alexa is going to keep the belt at Extreme Rules. And then, of course, finally, what is there to say about Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman? Kurt Angle set up that match backstage. The match never even got underway. Owens just takes off running, tries to hide from Braun Strowman again, much like last week when Owens was hiding in a locker room and then he came out with his luggage only to find his car tipped over in the parking lot. So this time Owens runs away and feels that it's a great idea to hide in a porta potty. but Braun Strowman winds up walking past it and finds out Owens is in there. He duct tapes it closed and then drags it into the arena. They've got a ramp set up on the side of the Raw set so he can drag the porta potty up the ramp onto the stage, only to throw it off. And the way he threw it off was fucking hilarious. After Strowman basically just shoulder tackles the porta potty off the stage, they open the door and Kevin Owens falls out and he's got blue shit all over him. So I guess he really was in there, but he was protected. But I think the only thing I found funny about it was the way Strowman, threw the porta potty. I was kind of thinking he would just pick it up or tip it over or something like that, but he kind of did his running tackle right into it, and it just looked hilarious. But still, like, WWE, come on, this is what you're doing? Fucking porta potties and toilet humor and Dr. Shelby and all this shit. I mean, this is just so fucking impossible to watch. I'm so glad I'm up here to stream with you guys on most Mondays because I couldn't watch this shit. But Strowman is awesome. That's just what he does. He's a big guy who breaks shit, and what's not to like? So at least he makes it somewhat entertaining, but just this idea written down on paper. I'm just picturing the creative meeting earlier on in the day where they're saying, what should we do tonight? How about we put Owens in a porta potty and tip it over? Like, who fucking comes up with this shit? Is Russo there? Kind of like when he was in TNA, he was supposed to be gone from the company, but then it was leaked that he was like kind of helping out and being a consultant. Does he, does him and Vince McMahon text message each other late at night while Vince is laying in bed stroking his grapefruits? I mean, what in the world is going on here? So yeah, Raw overall, kind of a stupid show. And they did a lot of stupid shit on Monday Night Raw. Let's move on from Raw and get into SmackDown now. SmackDown was pretty good. It was 4th of July themed, of course, and they did a lot of 4th of July type of shit, including Jeff Hardy coming out there in his red, white, and blue body paint, even did one of his weird promos before the match announcing his U.S. Open Challenge. And how weird is it that Jeff Hardy's promos are weirder than Matt's? Like Matt's supposed to be the crazy one here. And the Open Challenge saw The Miz answering the challenge. He came out there and gave Jeff Hardy a hell of a match. I actually thought that The Miz might have a chance to win this here, but Jeff Hardy wound up retaining with a Swanton Bomb in a pretty good match, and it was announced that he will have his title match against Shinsuke Nakamura at Extreme Rules. Very bizarre story involving Shinsuke Nakamura. Of course, he was supposed to challenge for the title last week, but they had to cancel the match because he got bit by a dog, a fucking police dog. Some canine unit that was in the arena wherever they were, I forgot what town it was basically sweeping the building for explosives and bombs, and Shinsuke was in one of the areas where the dog was, and the dog attacked him and bit his leg and put him out of action for a week or so. So now they're going to do the match at Extreme Rules, which I'm sure was probably the plan all along. Whatever they were going to do last week in the title match, if Nakamura was planned to win the belt, or if Hardy planned to retain, or if they did another disqualification, which I wouldn't be surprised at all if Nakamura nailed Jeff Hardy with a nut shot or something like that, or vice versa, setting up the rematch at Extreme Rules. So really, we probably didn't miss anything by them not doing the match on SmackDown. But now we're getting at Extreme Rules, and I'm pretty sure they're going to put the U.S. title on Shinsuke Nakamura. I think they should. I mentioned that SmackDown was very 4th of July themed, so they had a pancake eating competition with the New Day. They came out there, and I forgot who was moderating the thing, but they had a table set up there where Big E and Kofi and Xavier were going to eat pancakes and keep score. And right when they start getting into the eating, the lights go out and Sanity hits the ring from behind, attacks the New Day, beats the shit out of all three of them, kicks their ass in the big festive pancake party, and Sanity is probably going to get a pay-per-view match against New Day as well, I would think. They haven't announced one yet, but that's a very big possibility there that we're going to get a 6-man at Extreme Rules. And considering the heat and the bad blood now, I mean, you just don't go and interrupt a man's pancake party. When you do that, that means business. So this is probably going to be some sort of a stipulation match, tornado match, anything goes match, whatever, where all 6 guys can just be kicking the shit out of each other. We had James Ellsworth taking on Asuka. I called this match. I told you guys as soon as James Ellsworth appeared at Money in the Bank that they're going to do a one-on-one with him and Asuka on SmackDown. Now, I thought it would be for a title shot for Asuka, but they gave Asuka the title shot against Carmella at Extreme Rules outright, and she was going to take on Ellsworth one-on-one. And after a little bit of interaction in the ring, she's kicking him and chopping him and punching him. He ends up running away, in which Asuka chases him, and she runs him out of the building, and it ends in a double countout. So I thought Ellsworth would actually put Asuka over, but no, he ran away, which I guess in the the end is not really that surprising. We then had an AJ Styles promo. He's hyping up his match with Rusev, of course, at Extreme Rules, and he would be taking on Aiden English one-on-one. He would easily make Aiden English tap out, and that would prompt Rusev to attack after the match, lock AJ Styles in the Accolade, and leave him laying to end that segment, and the two of them will have one more interaction on the Go Home SmackDown next week, and then their big title match at Extreme Rules. And I'm hoping for a really good outing here by Rusev. I don't expect him to win the WWE title. I mentioned in my last episode that I'm really hoping that AJ Styles has a longer run here. Since he's held it this long and he's somehow survived that 6 pay-per-view or 6 match long feud, whatever it was, with Shinsuke Nakamura, I think you should just have him hold the belt at least until maybe Survivor Series or maybe even the beginning of the year and the Royal Rumble, where he could also break CM Punk's title run from a few years back. So not only will Brock have a longer world title run, but so will AJ. Might be another way to stick it to Punk. So if it was up to me, AJ, I think he's the best wrestler in the world. I think a long title run is fun and old school, and it's the exact opposite of what Brock Lesnar is doing. AJ's holding the belt potentially also for a year, and he's defending the belt 100 times more often than Brock Lesnar is sitting on his ass. So I think that can be a nice counterbalance to what we're dealing with Brock on the Raw brand. So I expect AJ to somehow retain against Rusev. I don't know if he'll beat him clean or if they'll set up a rematch at SummerSlam. I have a feeling AJ might be involved in one of these multi-man type of deals for his title match at SummerSlam. You know, Samoa Joe could be involved in that depending on what Daniel Bryan's got going on with his contract situation or whatever, because I believe it is up in September. Maybe he can be involved in that as well. You've got The Miz floating around. You've got Rusev. Depending on who wins the U.S. title match, you got Shinsuke and Jeff Hardy. So you got all sorts of different things you can do. But if they do plan on keeping the title on AJ, I would think they just need to line up some pay-per-view victories here, which is why Rusev being a random opponent kind of makes sense. If they do a multi-man type of deal at SummerSlam and he retains there and then goes on to feud with Samoa Joe, you got to know that a Samoa Joe and AJ Styles feud is on the horizon. So I don't know if AJ can keep surviving all of these challengers, you know, Nakamura and now Rusev, whatever he does at SummerSlam, and then most likely heading into the fall to face Samoa Joe. It's going to be a tall order for AJ to hold on to that title until January, but I'm really rooting for him. We also had Becky Lynch tapping out Peyton Royce in a quick little match there. And then in the main event, we had Daniel Bryan and Kane, Team Hell No, taking on the Usos. Now, I think they opened up the show, Bryan and Kane, with a promo because they had to explain why Kane is back and why he came out to help Daniel Bryan. Because don't forget, the last time we saw Daniel Bryan and Kane together, I believe, was when Daniel Bryan had just won the title at WrestleMania 30. And then Kane tried to end his career. He tombstoned him on the stairs. And they were working towards a program between the two of them as Daniel Bryan's first challenger after he won the belt. But of course, he had to forfeit and the whole deal kind of fizzled away. So they addressed all of that. And my favorite line of the whole night was when they might have even been backstage. This might have not even been in the ring anymore, but Kane, says to Daniel Bryan, "You're like a brother to me." And then Daniel Bryan says, "You tried to set your brother on fire." So I definitely liked some of the comedic stuff that they added when discussing the history between Daniel Bryan and Kane and some of the horrible things Kane has tried to do to Daniel Bryan and how they were once friends and then enemies, and now it appears that they're friends again. And the Usos came out to interrupt them and cut a promo, which then prompts Paige to come out and set up a tag team match for later on, Team Hell No versus the Usos. And if the Usos win, then they are inserted into the tag team title match at Extreme Rules. Kane and Daniel Bryan, not surprisingly, would get the victory here. I didn't really expect them to add the Usos and make this a triple threat. I thought Team Hell No versus the Bludgeon Brothers was a good enough match there. And I don't know if Daniel Bryan and Kane are going to win the tag team titles or not. Part of me thinks they are, which kind of sucks because I'm not ready for the Bludgeon Brothers, who have been built up to be these monsters, to really drop the belts yet. Granted, they're dropping them to a couple of former world champions, but still, I think this might be a case of WWE spinning their wheels with Daniel Bryan until they figure out what his contract status is going to be. A lot of fans, I'm sure, want him in the world title picture, and I think he'll get there, provided he re-signs and sticks around. They can easily build Daniel Bryan up for something big for the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania or whatever, but if they're uncertain about his future, just keeping him busy rekindling an old tag team with Kane when all of the fans want to see this guy contend for the world title and be a single star. So that brings us to the Extreme Rules card now. Here are the matches that I have. I only have 8, and I have a feeling these are the only 8 matches I'm going to predict when I do my predictions video, unless WWE announces another match on social media between now and this weekend. Here's what I have. We've got the B Team taking on Hardy and Wyatt for the Raw Tag Team titles. We've got Team Hell No taking on the Bludgeon Brothers for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's title. Asuka versus Carmella for the SmackDown Women's title. Jeff Hardy versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States title, Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the IC title, and that's a match that's going to be really good. I'm excited to see that one. I really am. Win, lose, or draw for either guy. I can't wait to watch that match. That should be fun. And then, of course, we have Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley and AJ Styles defending the WWE title against Rusev. So out of those 8 matches that I just mentioned, 7 of them are title matches. Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley is the only match that's not a title match that I see on the card right now. Now, like I said, they could add Sanity and New Day. Wouldn't be surprised at all if they do. So no title will be on the line there. And I'm hoping that they're going to add Bayley and Sasha as well, because, given their history and stuff, and this is an Extreme Rules pay-per-view, you should put these 2 girls in some sort of a stipulation match. So when I do my Extreme Rules predictions, if they haven't announced those 2 matches, I will probably, just for the hell of it, include them in my predictions, because I'm sure that we will get those matches officially announced, which will put the count up to, I believe, 10 matches for this card. Oh, and I'm sorry, there's another one. Strowman and Owens. There's another 2 that I haven't mentioned either. So Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens will probably also be added to this card as well. And we initially heard that would be a cage match. But now, I don't know what they're going to do. But considering Kevin Owens has ran away every week on TV, a cage match stipulation seems likely and would definitely make sense, because that would prevent Kevin Owens from running away. And if he does want to run away, then he wins, because he's got to climb out of the cage and get the hell out of there. So if he's able to do that, then I guess that adds a little bit more to their match. So yeah, if you do Sasha and Bayley, and you do Owens and Strowman, and you do Sanity and New Day, now you're looking at 11 matches, with one of those matches being a 30-minute Iron Man match. So unless we want to have a 6-hour pay-per-view here, I don't really know how many more they can even add to this card. So y'all's guess is as good as mine, but by the time the card is finalized, I will be on my vacation, so I will do my best with my predictions video on Monday. Before I get out of here, just want to mention a couple of things. First, I did get a chance to catch the really great match on 205 Live between Buddy Murphy and Mustafa Ali. God damn, that was some great shit. 205 Live has been doing a great job. I enjoy not having the cruiserweights on Raw. I'm totally fine with that. I think Triple H taking over 205 Live has led to a positive change on the brand, especially after all those hiccups and Neville and Enzo and everything else that was going on with that brand. They seem to be hitting their stride now, and it's a great little alternative. You got 205 Live, you got NXT, now you've got NXT UK. WWE has got great wrestling in this company. I know we all bitch and complain, oh, WWE sucks these days, and it's not as good as it used to be. For Raw and SmackDown, the creative is a big bowl of fucking vomit. We know that, but if you're looking for good wrestling, you can easily find that under the WWE umbrella outside of Raw and SmackDown. So WWE is offering us their own alternatives. Instead of fans having to venture elsewhere, oh, I'm only going to watch TNA or Ring of Honor or New Japan or something like that, WWE's like, okay, fine, you can go do that, but you can also watch alternatives under our own company umbrella here that can give you just as high quality of matches that you will find in any of those other promotions. So at least we've got that going for us, and WWE really does have some nice alternatives to the same old shit we see every week on Raw and SmackDown. I did briefly mention, of course, also in my last episode, the unfortunate death of Matt Capotelli. He passed away a week or so ago now, and he was diagnosed with a second bout of brain cancer not long ago, and it was terminal. I mean, there was nothing they could do for him. It was stage 4, whatever the fuck. I mean, it was just gnarly. And this guy had already beaten the first bout with cancer. He had been in remission for I don't know how many years, maybe 10. I don't know how long it was, but he stayed in remission for a long time, and then it came back, and the dude just, I mean, he fought so hard. He was, he stayed until the end there, just unbelievably positive. And when I see his situation and what happened to him, I don't know if I would have the strength to handle myself the way he did, because it's just remarkable. I mean, every interview that he ever did, every time he spoke, he was just filled with positivity and insisted on beating this thing and continued to train and work out and train young wrestlers. And everybody that ever had a chance to work with him loved him. He was never even, he never even got out of the blocks, man. As soon as he was signed, right before he was about to be moved to the main roster, that's when he was diagnosed. So the guy never even really made it to TV, aside from a few rare appearances on Raw and SmackDown, I think. But he was penciled in to be a huge star. He had the look. He had everything. He was going to be really good. And just such a shame, just such a tragedy what wound up happening to him. But, if I can live, a tenth of my life with the positivity that he led his entire life with, then I'm going to live a long time, because that guy was an absolute warrior till the very end. So my heart goes out to his wife and his family and everybody that was friends with him. He had a lot of friends in the business, a lot of friends, because he was a very well-liked guy, just a very stand-up guy. And the wrestling business, they lost a good one here. I wish more people in the wrestling business could have the personality and the personal drive and the morals that a guy like Matt Capotelli did. So rest in peace, Matt. You will be missed. And we all love you. Aside from that, a couple of other things that I mentioned in my last episode that was live last week. Vince McMahon dropping $500 million, $500 million into the XFL, got the fans' panties in a bunch, because they're like, where's all the money for WWE? And I immediately blew all this anger off. I don't think fans really understand business at all. WWE, when you look at WWE's product, they are not, they're not slacking off on spending. They spend a shit ton of money. Yes, they do. They don't do pyro anymore and shit like that, but that's so minor in the grand scheme of things. I mean, all you got to do is look at the sets of WrestleMania, just see how much money is put into that, to see that WWE really truly does care and they spend money, but at the same time, they are a business and they're not going to make any unnecessary expenses. And I think nowadays you don't see the different pay-per-view sets anymore, and they've kind of gone with a more generic look, because it is cost effective and it is easier on the ring crew as well. If they get used to putting the same thing together, they can set this up and break it down very quickly. It's very easy on everybody, a lot easier on, on the road crew and stuff. And that's really, although I miss the old days of the pay-per-view sets, to me, that's not really something to where I think WWE is being cheap. I think they're just being smart. And plus, what a lot of fans, I think, are failing to realize, that this is not like WWE money. It's not like WWE or Vince McMahon is going into WWE's bank account and pulling out $500 million to spend on his football league. That's not what he's doing. This is Vince McMahon's personal money. He sold a shit ton of WWE stock, to get some of this money, and the rest was his own money, so it's not like WWE is losing out in this. And I think the fans just, they don't think about these things. Now, years ago in the XFL, WWE was a lot different. When they first launched the company, I think they did take their eye off the ball from WWE a little bit. Vince McMahon was very focused on the XFL, and WWE didn't have the infrastructure that it does now. So when Vince takes his eyes off the ball, shit was suffering. The WWE was spread really thin, as far as labor and stuff goes. Now they're ready. They're fully equipped to handle a big venture like this and a big project and hiring outside people. And Vince McMahon's eyes are going to be off the WWE ball a little bit, but Triple H's won't be. I mean, this is Vince's deal. So, Vince now has got his company in good hands, to where if he's going to go off and do something like this, that might actually benefit WWE. Don't you think, as fans, all the stuff that we hear about Vince McMahon and how out of touch that he is, if he's focused on the XFL for a while, WWE may benefit from this. We've already seen that with Triple H being fully in charge of NXT and fully in charge of 205 Live. Those brands are thriving. So when the XFL finally launches, that's gonna occupy a lot of Vince McMahon's attention. And he's trying to make this new business venture work. And if he wants to sink all this money into it, fine. It's not going to harm the WWE anymore. It really has nothing to do with the WWE at all. So I think the fans, I saw it all on social media. You guys were tweeting me. Some people were even making videos about it, all pissed off, but before you fly off the rails, kind of look at the situation here and read into it and know your facts before you start freaking out. Vince spending $500 million on the XFL really shouldn't bother any of us. It's not our business. If you don't want to, I don't even give a shit about the XFL. I don't care if it succeeds. I don't care if it fails. I don't care. Whatever Vince wants to do with it and however much money he wants to spend on it, go right ahead. It's your business. It's your deal. Do whatever you want. I'm more interested in the wrestling side of Vince's life, and I'm not really concerned with what he spends. So I think a lot of fans just need to chill out. It wasn't that big of a deal. If you're going to start a football league, yeah, $500 million seems like not even enough to get the ball rolling on everything that you're going to need to do. So I'm surprised it's only that much. If they would have said $1 billion, that seems like almost more likely if you really want to make a big league, that's able to pay guys and be able to compete with the NFL or other football leagues, like the one that I believe Dick Ebersol's kid is going to start. So Vince definitely isn't half-assing this, and I feel like he's got the right to do whatever he wants. So right on, Vince, go for it. Go all out, just be football from here on out and let Triple H handle the wrestling side of things. And I think we might all be happier fans for it. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. What did we come in here? About 40 minutes or so? That's not too bad. I said it would be short. It did go longer than I thought, though. And what else is new there? So, yeah, you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Just to remind you, this coming weekend, probably on Sunday, you'll get my DVD review. And then this coming Monday, on the 9th, I will be releasing or schedule to have released my Extreme Rules predictions, which will be early predictions because I will be on the East Coast on vacation and I will not be home for the Go Home Raw or SmackDown or the Extreme Rules pay-per-view itself. But while I'm gone, keep checking back to the channel. I'll be throwing some mic drops at you throughout the week, and I've got a bunch of them scheduled and ready to go, so the channel will continue to survive and thrive while I'm gone. So, yeah, you guys take care. Have a good rest of your week, and I will catch you in just a couple of days. Until then, peace.
This has been a Good Mic Work Commentaries production. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/GoodMicWork. Follow Greg Morgan on Twitter at GoodMicWork and visit GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com for all the latest podcast and video content.